All right, welcome back to the Kruegshow, everybody, as we get things rolling on a Wednesday. And the great Grant Cohn in the house to join us as we talk all things Niners. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They've got great barbecue. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. We'll have more on them in a bit. And before we go any further, Penny is a brand new member, and I always give a little clap to the brand new members. So, Penny, thank you for being a member of the Kruegshow. All right. We're off and running. Grant, good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. How was your time in Arizona?
Oh, man, it was good, except I'm getting a little peel going, a little too much sun
nice.
for, us white guys. But, yeah, it was good. It was really good. Saw some baseball, hung out with my boys, got a chance to do some interviews in the Giants clubhouse, and, got out of this rain, man. I guess it rained all of last week, huh?
What time does that clubhouse open? 8? It's
8
early,
o'clock in
right?
the morning. It's
8 o'clock. I've done that before. You really got to wake up. It's a fun time. They're all there, and you can do some really good. You can get some really good interviews.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's great. I'll say this: the baseball player. I don't know about you, but I love interviewing the players before the game. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about baseball players or football players. I like interviewing football players during the week at practice, or you don't talk to them necessarily on game day before the game. I guess you could, but I don't. But I don't like the post game that much because I think the post game becomes this gigantic, even if it's not intended this way, it becomes like you fucked up. How did you fuck up? Or
I live for that.
Up and I know more.
I live for that, Larry. That's what I live for.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I see what you mean. It's a whole different dynamic, and there's nothing really off limits before the game. I mean, it's just talking ball and learning from a guy, which is fun.
And also, to me, I like some of the best interviews I've done with players. I just go up to them and be like, "Hey, man, where are you from? What are you into? What are you about? What's important to you?" And then all of a sudden, it's like the whole walls come down, and we just start talking like guys back and forth. I wanted to get you on and talk about all these Niner topics. What a great couple days it's been for guys like us. I mean, and these radio stations, I gotta laugh as they're talking Giants. Talking Warriors, and the audience wants Niners, and the audience wants NFL, and the numbers the last couple of days. I mean, the views that I'm getting on these videos, the views that you're getting on all your stuff. I mean, this has been a phenomenal week.
I mean, I like to do other stuff, offbeat stuff. Sometimes I'll do food blogs, but not this week. Are you kidding me? This is Christmas. I mean, every day it's like the Niners just played a game in terms of views. In terms of fan interest, I don't understand not talking about the Niners right now. Why would you talk about regular season basketball, spring training baseball? I mean, it's cool that you went, of course, but you were there talking about the Niners.
Yeah.
In your spare time.
Yeah.
Because you're not an idiot. You're actually very smart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it really comes down to? If the people who did radio were being directly paid based on the number of people listening, and they actually had a direct tie to it. They don't realize it. But if they actually realized it, they'd be talking a ton more about the Niners and a lot more about the NFL and a lot less about the tournament.
College football.
I mean, I love the tournament. I'm going to watch the tournament. I filled out a bracket. My wife filled out a bracket. Doesn't mean I want to waste my time talking about the tournament, about college basketball that I didn't watch and I don't care about, and nobody in the audience does either. All right.
Right.
That's my
amen.
Yeah.
Amen. I love it.
Keep it rolling. All right. Yeah. Clelin Ferrell's a Niner. The Raiders really effed up a few years ago, taking him 4th overall in the draft. And, he was a good, productive college player at Clemson. He just didn't have freakish athleticism. Never should have gone top 5. The Raiders made him a top 5 pick. The Niners.
That was controversial at the time, right? People were like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Like Clelin Ferrell? Yeah. Wow. But the Raiders don't know what they're doing, and that's been proven, and that's why Mike Mayock's out of a gig. But what do you think of Ferrell being added to the Niners today? I didn't see the details, what they're paying him.
Yeah, I assume it's fairly cheap. It's a 1-year deal. He's not better than Samson Ebukam, but I could see why they would get him. You lose Samson Ebukam, and he was a really good run defender. And Clelin Ferrell, if he's good at anything, it's defending the run. He's a good athlete. If you look up his highlights online, they're all him making plays against the run. So they need that because it seemed like Drake Jackson's biggest weakness last year was setting the edge and just playing against the run. It seems like he has the bend and length to be a pass rusher. Maybe the plan is to platoon those two at D end, but they need to step up because if those two don't, what is the plan at the end? That's the thing. The Niners need another pass rusher. Philly they're like 6 deep, or they're at least 4 deep at all time on the field. They have at least 4 pass rushers on the field at all time. The Niners have 2. If you count Armstead, that's 3. And then Ferrell's not 1, so Jackson needs to be 1. He would be 4.
So your read on this is that they're still very much in the running for. I mean, a lot of people were thinking Yannick Ngakoue, Clowney, Leonard Floyd is the guy that I've been kind of touting. Zardarius Smith, Marcus Golden got cut this week. He seems like he's always great against the 49ers. Do you think that they're going to dip into? I mean, it's a very deep edge class in the draft. Do you think they're done in free agency on the edge, or do you think they'll go? They did clear some room with some restructures. Do you think they'll try to use some cap space on, a little bit more of a premier guy to go opposite Bosa, or do you think they're going to pass on it and go to the draft?
I think they're going to pass on it and go to the draft. If they sign a premier guy, it kind of buries Drake Jackson before he gets started in his career. I don't think they've given up on Drake Jackson. He was a rookie. He hit the rookie wall. He's probably going to come back bigger, stronger, better this year. I actually look at this as a vote of confidence in Drake Jackson. You got a guy who can platoon with him, do the dirty work, defend the run, but he's not going to take snaps from him on third down. Yannick Ngakoue would. Now, I think with that third round comp pick, 99, whatever, they could take, I think a good edge rusher could fall there. Someone who's not a 3-down player, but a smaller, quicker guy like a la D Ford. They're still looking for that skill set. They don't have that on the team right
now. There was a rumor well, I don't know, rumor, but you know how these things go. Darius Slay cut by the Eagles. They were trying to trade him. Sounds like they didn't get their price. And we talked about this the other day.
Cut by the Giants. Cut by the Giants.
Got you. But Slay, Darius Slay, didn't he play for? I thought he played for the Eagles.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Darius Slayton.
No, Slay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I thought you said Darius Slayton. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so Slay is out there, and Hargrave did one of these, and the implication was that maybe Hargrave is rooting for Slay to now join him with the 49ers. Yeah. They let go of Mosley, they let go of Jimmy. Corner, if you said to me, what's my number one concern? My number one concern right now is the corner. What do you think do you think they could, I mean, it's going to cost a lot to get a guy like Slay, but he's a big-time guy. If you took him away from Philly, that would be huge. What do you think of Darius Slay coming here?
I mean, Slay's really good. And I think of right tackle as a bigger need because I think I have more confidence in Lenore than McKivitz, although I'm not sure why. But I've just seen, I don't know. I guess I just feel I've seen Lenore make plays. That being said,
he was good in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was. If you could get Slay and put Lenore back in the slot, here's the way I look at the Niners right now. I think they got spooked by Trent Williams this off. Roll with me on this one.
Okay.
Trent Williams at the end of the season was like, I don't know, this might be it. I might hang it up. And I think the Niners were like, what? Oh, what? We were kind of hoping to have you for a while. And he comes back. But now you have to look at Trent Williams as a year-to-year proposition, if you're being honest.
Yeah.
And I think this could be the last year of Trent Williams' career. It could be. He doesn't know. And he's a cornerstone player on this team. The way I look at it, they have 4 cornerstone players. Him, Bosa, Warner, and Kittle. And this could be the last year for Trent Williams. And God knows with George Kittle. I mean, he's on the downside of his career. You don't know. So all of a sudden, this becomes a very serious season. And that's why I feel like Hargrave is here. They didn't want to give this contract to DeForest Buckner. They wanted to leave their options open. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, we'll give it to Hargrave, who's older than Buckner. And he's 30 when they balked when Buckner was 25. So it seems like a little bit of a difference in philosophy. Let's go for it right now. So yeah, go get Darius Slay. What are you waiting for? This could be Trent Williams last year. And you're going to have to tear it down like the Rams eventually anyway.
Well, that's the question. I want to get to that in a bit as well, because that I think is really interesting. Because the Rams, you're right. Rams went for 5 or 6 guys at the top. Now they've moved Ramsey. They're shopping Stafford. There's rumors they're going to trade Aaron Donald, and and it looks like they're taking like a couple seasons off. Are the Niners going to be in that boat in a short amount of time? One super chat here.
Not if they draft well, which they seem to do.
Right.
Not if they draft well, but still, like, pick 177 in this draft isn't necessarily going to be the difference in them winning the Super Bowl this year or not. If they want to go over make that push and win this year, it's right now. It's free agency. It's Darius Slay.
Yeah. And Slay, I mean, if you're going to invest in a special talent, I'd like it to be either on the edges, either corner or, an edge rusher, a
offensive
tackle,
tackle.
either side. You know what I mean? On the edges, I think that's where you can be, quite a bit better. Okay, so Michael Lombardi, I heard an interview that he did with Brian Murphy on KNBR. I'm driving around. He's got a quote from Michael Lombardi, and it's about Trey. And it's like you can kind of tell Lombardi doesn't like Trey. Either he doesn't believe in Trey. He thinks he's raw.
Because he's seen him play so much. Yeah, okay, keep going.
Right. Nobody's seen him play, but Lombardi seems to be like overly negative. When I say overly negative, that's my impression. I had an interview with Randy Mueller, the former GM of the Dolphins and Saints, on the channel months ago. I said, "Where did you have Trey ranked?" He said, "You know what, Lair? I didn't even have Trey ranked at all because his resume was so short and so small that I didn't feel like there was enough tape to even properly evaluate him. So I didn't have him on my board at all." And I thought that was really interesting. So I guess I'll throw it to you this way. Why do you think the scouting community, to some degree, and maybe I'm using two guys and grouping them all with the scouting community, but why do you think the scouting community seems to be down on Trey Lance before really any of us fans have been able to watch him really play and get a real handle on what he's good at, what he's bad at, what he needs to work on? I mean, he might be a star. He might be a bust. I haven't seen enough. I think he's going to get there because of traits, but I don't know if it's going to be short term. I think it's going to be long term. But it does seem like the scouting community is against Trey. What do you think they've seen from him, or what are they hearing, or are they getting it from the Niners? What's your read on that?
See, that's the thing. It's like they haven't seen anything more than we've seen. So it's just people with opinions based on very little sample. Who drafted Trey Lance? I'm thinking there were a lot of scouts on the Niners who liked him. Guys who've been in the organization a long time. I bet you Adam Peters freaking loved him. So I don't know. People outside the organization have opinions, but they're not here. They don't really know. I think the thing that's so unique about Trey Lance is he's just a giant unknown. There's no body of work. There's no body of work. Not in high school, not in college, not now. And you can say, well, a guy like that's not going to succeed. Maybe, but that's just in general. That's theoretical. We really don't know what's going to happen with him. And I think that's why the Niners maybe need to hedge their bet. It's year 3 of Trey Lance. And the plan was for him to have some starts under his belt, his 4 games under his belt. What do? Do you just hand the team to him for half a season if Brock Purdy can't come back and hope for the best? Clearly not. Now they're hedging their bets. And it's like, you have to. Because, and there's a lot of people who are at fault for this, but that's the way it is in year 3 of the Trey Lance experience.
So you're in agreement that they have to hedge their bet? That they can't go all in on Trey and just wait for Brock. They have to hedge.
They're all in with Trent Williams. We just talked about that, right? They're all in for this season with Trent Williams. It could be his last. And the plan was for Trey Lance to be ready right now, but he's not. He has 4 starts and he's coming off a serious injury. He's not even fully cleared to practice yet. So they have to bring in someone else. It could end up being Trey Lance, but they don't know. They don't know. And it's too much at stake to just cross your fingers.
Okay. What does the Darnold money tell you about the whole, how the Niners view the quarterback room? I did a thing with Vish the other day, and he thinks that money and the fact that Darnold took this offer on day 1 of free agency means that he may have either a promise from them that he's going to be, that either the room's going to be thinner, he's going to have a shot at the top job. He did get $3.5 million guaranteed. That's not a lot for number 2, Grant, but it is a lot for number 3. What is the money that Trey?
It's number 2 money.
Yeah,
it's number 2 money, and I think that's interesting. So that means, like, is he competing with Lance to be the number 2, or is Brock not coming back as soon as the Niners have made it seem? Like, what the Niners have seen is, hey, 6 months, he'll be back. But that's like best case scenario. It's possible that privately the Niners are like, look, we'd love him to be back. We hope he's back in 6 months, but we really don't know. And the surgeon said, be cautious and be ready for this to take a little bit longer. So actually, Sam, there's a possibility that you could start week 1. You know, if you really impress us in the offseason and Trey Lance doesn't, you could start week 1 for this team. I mean, we don't know that Brock Purdy's starting week 1. There could be really an opportunity to start on this team. Maybe that's the way Sam Darnold looks at it. It's like, look, all I got to do is compete with this guy who started 4 games and played 1 season in college. Like, I'm not that good, but I'm better than him. I'm thinking that's what Sam Darnold's thinking. He hasn't even seen him play. He doesn't know Trey Lance.
Refugio says, will the Niners sign a cornerback or a right tackle? Thank you so much for the content. It's always amazing. If they're going to sign somebody, is it a corner? Is it a right tackle, or is it neither?
I don't think they're going to sign a right tackle. I mean, unless they get real creative here. I think they made it pretty clear. It's a weird. If Mike McGlinchey's getting $50 million guaranteed, then it's probably a pretty messed up right tackle market. Unless they want to go out and get Orlando Brown, but that's a left tackle. You're not going to get him at a right tackle price. You could play him at right tackle, but he's a really, really expensive, good player.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Darius Slay is probably more attainable. That like a really good corner is much more attainable than a really good right tackle right now.
Right tackle, left tackle, right tackle, maybe the hardest position to fill in the entire field outside of quarterback, because it's just, you need a certain body type. There's only so many of these guys. It's almost impossible to find them in the draft if you don't have a first round pick. You pay a ton in free agency for mediocre talent. It's a difficult position to fill for sure. Is there a chance?
Can I just say real quick, though, the Eagles do a good job of drafting and developing it. Like, they found Jordan Mailata on day 3. And so they're not, like, the Niners go for these gritty, tough, try-hard players like Colton McKivitz on day 3. The Eagles go for traits. Jordan Mailata never really played football before, but he's 6'8", 360, one of the, like, ran off the charts at the combine. Like, we could teach him. We can coach him up. We can teach him, and that's what they've done a lot of times. So the Niners might want to try that. Back when they had Mike Solari and Jim Harbaugh, they had legit monsters on the offensive line. You can't say that about the Niners now, except for their left tackle. Monsters.
No, they had, Yapati and Anthony Davis. And just these huge behemoths.
Yeah.
Even Goodwin was good.
Yeah.
Clelin Imperio has become a YouTube member. Thank you, Cles. Thank you for joining. Okay. Is John Lynch and Parag Marathe ahead of the rest of the NFL? Joe Lacob loves to say, they call him Joey Light Years because he said, "Oh, we're light years ahead of the rest of the league." And it was arrogant. People crushed him, but man, they got the rings, right? And now they built this incredible arena. Is it, can we ask that question if Lynch and Parag are ahead of the rest of the NFL? And I say this for one reason. Look at the depth of the 49er roster from 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl to 6 years later here in 2022, 2023. The Niners have been the one team that has had deep rosters every year. Now, they haven't won the Super Bowl, and they haven't been the best team. So I don't know if you can say they're light years ahead, but they have had consistently the deepest roster. And unlike the Rams, who had to basically give away last year, dump a bunch of guys this year, take a step back, or the Eagles, who have all these defections in free agency and it appears they're going to take a step back, the Niners have been competing for a Super Bowl. They haven't gotten it yet, but look, I counted the number of guys, Grant, that the Niners have gotten in round 4, 5, 6, 7 or undrafted. On their current roster, it's over 20. And I'm just and they're exceptionally deep, and they seem like their philosophy is go, especially the last 2 years, go get one great player. Last year, Charvarius. This year, Javon Hargrave. Let your good players walk. Take comp picks for them, usually in day 3, and then just kill it on day 3 and after the draft and have this deep young roster. And what do you think? I mean, they're the one thing that's undeniable is the Niners 53 and practice squad is deeper than most teams in pro football. Are they ahead of the curve in any way on this, or am I being extra positive?
I see where you're coming from. I definitely do. Are they ahead of the curve? It's hard to say that because they don't have the hardware to validate it yet, but they're close to your point. I feel like what they're doing is building their team in a different way from the rest of the league. Like the rest of the league is trying to follow the trend of it's an offensive league more than ever. It's a quarterback-driven league more than ever. And we're going to build around our offense and our quarterback. Well, you got to get a great quarterback. And the Niners are over here like it's 1998 being like, no, you don't. John Lynch's like, I want a Super Bowl with Brad Johnson over. Like, no, you don't. So the Niners are really committed to their defense, their weapons, pretty much everything besides a quarterback. And they're thinking that with a great team and Kyle Shanahan, a lot of quarterbacks could win a Super Bowl on this team. And they haven't proven it yet, but maybe they will. And it's like, sometimes I feel like they've built the best version of this kind of a team, the defense run, but ultimately they're always going to be held back by the fact that they haven't found a great quarterback. It's hard to say you're light years ahead of the rest of the league when you got 3 question marks at quarterback still in year 7. But in every other way, they're so good. And it's like, well, if they could just find their guy, when though? Is it Brock? It looked like Brock, but then you messed him up. And I'm still upset about it.
Okay. There's a guy in here who's ripping me because he says I'm ripping Darnold, but then I say Darnold sucks. Then I say Darnold's better than Lance. I never said Darnold's better than Lance. Here's the question I have for you. Can you envision a scenario where Darnold beats out Lance this summer?
Yes. Now I can envision a scenario where Lance beats out Darnold, but absolutely. Yes. If Lance isn't on it, Darnold's and it's going to be interesting. Lance, I don't think they're going to be sharing reps with the first. I think this is a super highway for Lance to take this job. But if he's struggling and he doesn't show any improvement, if he's still scattershot, if his mechanics, if he still locks out his front leg too soon, if he still has a wobbly throw, and Sam Darnold is just quietly, looking functional on the second team, people are going to talk about it. You and I'll see it, and the locker room will see it. And frankly, I feel like Trey's been trying really hard, almost too hard, to get the vets on the team to like him. What if they just like Darnold? Darnold's closer to their age. They probably know him already. It's possible he could win over the locker room and that Trey Lance would be screwed again. The locker room pretty much chooses. So we'll see what George Kittle decides. You know what I mean? Let's see who George Kittle likes better.
If you had to describe how the locker room feels about Trey Lance, I mean, this is hard. This is a hard thing because everybody's pro everybody, right? So nobody's standing in the middle of the room going, that guy can't. No, you're not going to see it. It's not going to be as obvious as that. It's going to manifest itself in far more subtle ways. How do you think the locker room feels about Trey Lance?
I think they feel that he was handed the job and they don't appreciate it. And I think they feel that no matter how nice he is or how hard he tries or how professional he is, he didn't earn it. And that's a really short-sighted way of looking at things, but Jimmy Garoppolo won his first 5 starts. Brock Purdy won his first 7 starts. Trey's going to have to do something like that. If he gets the job to start week 1 and wins his first 3 starts, I think they'll like him. But until he does something like that, they'll always nitpick him and say, well, he's just not ready, and he doesn't have this, and he didn't play enough of that. And maybe they're right, but they have no patience. And I think they felt lied to a little bit. The Niners re-signed Trent Williams. They re-signed Kyle Juszczyk and said, we're going all in. And then they traded for Trey Lance, and they're like, whoa, we signed to play with Jimmy. So I think there's been a confusion here. And now that Jimmy's finally gone, Trey Lance finally has an opportunity to take the team. But at the same time, they like Brock now. So I just feel like the Niners brought him in to replace their friend. Everyone loved Jimmy Garoppolo, and they resented Trey for that. It's not Trey's fault. It was never Trey's fault. The Niners put him in a tough position. There's nothing inauthentic about him as a guy. He's like a 22-year-old trying to make friends with a bunch of 30-year-olds that don't want to be his friend. Pretty much is the way I look at it. It's a tough position to be in.
It is. It absolutely is. So you could envision Darnold beating out Lance. You could also envision Lance beating out Darnold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that what is going to be success for Trey? Is it going to be wins or is it going to be points?
Wins.
Like, what is the fair evaluator? I've heard people say to me, hey man, if Trey starts the first month and he's 4-0, okay. I'm like, okay, then he's not coming out. And then I've heard other people say, well, wait a second. No. If they were scoring 35 a game with Brock Purdy, if the Niners are scoring 30 a game and maybe they're winning, maybe they're losing, that will be the determining factor. And that will keep Trey in there, not necessarily the W's. Is it points or is it wins or is it a combination thereof? Is it practice? What's going to keep Trey in the number 1 spot?
Well, it's also Sam. It's also Brock and Sam. Like if Darnold's terrible, that keeps Trey in the number 1 spot. And if Brock's more injured than we realize and it takes him a longer time to come back than we understand, then that keeps Trey in the number 1 spot. So all those things factor in. But like to your point, Brock was winning and scoring 35 plus points a game. So if he makes a full recovery and he's ready, it's almost nothing Trey Lance can do to keep Brock from playing. So we'll have to see what Brock looks like when he makes his full recovery. I'm still a little skeptical, I guess, that his arm's going to be what it was.
I mean, it almost got ripped out. I mean,
exactly.
So
it was a very violent injury.
Yeah, it was a very violent injury. And if you told me that he lost 10% of his zip or maybe a little bit of his accuracy, that to me, that wouldn't be like, what? No way. Right. I can't believe it. It's very plausible. So I think all bets are off as far as Brock. It's all wait and see.
Yeah,
if Brock comes back to where he was, is there a competition or is it just his job?
No, I mean, he won 2 playoff games. There's nothing Trey Lance or Sam Darnold can do in a practice or a preseason game that supersedes that. So Brock's still on a heater. He never lost. He's like Tua last year. Remember Tua was on that streak? Right. He never lost. He got hurt. And so he gets to keep playing and keep this streak going, and we'll see what he looks like. But there's a possibility that when he gets his job back, he won't exactly be the same, and it won't all work the way it used to work, but we'll see. We're going to get to see that eventually.
How amazing would it be if Sam Darnold became a great player? I mean, some people, I thought they went with Darnold because they couldn't afford Mayfield, but then I looked at the numbers and Darnold may actually wind up getting more than
I like the choice. I would rather go with Darnold than Mayfield. He's more mobile. He's bigger. I don't like Mayfield. There's something unlikable about Mayfield. Darnold, he's just a guy, keeps his mouth shut, works hard. I mean, he's been on bad teams, but Mayfield, when he ridiculed the Giants for drafting Daniel Jones, like who the hell are you to talk about other quarterbacks like that? Sam Darnold's not that kind of guy.
Mayfield doesn't seem like he would fit in their locker room.
No,
as much as
Bo's already ridiculed him.
I like Mayfield's talent more than Darnold's, but I don't know about his personality. What do you who do you think really likes Darnold? Do you think it's Wilkes? Do you think it's McCaffrey? Do you think it's Kyle? Is it John? Kyle. Who is sitting there pounding the table saying, Darnold?
I bet a lot of them like Darnold. I bet Fred Warner grew up an hour away from Darnold. I bet Fred liked him. I bet Kyle's on record as liking him. I bet the Niners gave him a really high draft grade when he was coming out of USC. He was a big deal coming out of USC.
Yeah, he was.
Before entering his last year at USC, people thought he was going to be the number 1 pick, and then Baker Mayfield edged him out for it. But to me, he's been on bad teams, and he's developed bad habits where he tries to do too much because his teams are losing. Now the Niners just have to get him to buy into doing less. Just do less. Get the ball out of your hands in 2.5 seconds. Don't try to make a play because you're not a playmaker. You're really not. You got some legs and you can sort of get out of trouble, but don't try to do it all yourself. Let Christian do what Brock Purdy did. Watch Brock Purdy, and I think Sam Darnold probably can do. He's a better athlete than Brock Purdy. Frankly, watch his tape from last year in Carolina. Tell me the last time the Niners had a quarterback who could air it out down the field like Sam Darnold does. Now Trey can, but Trey hasn't played.
Right. The only thing about Darnold that's so frustrating is tons of turnovers and low completion percentage.
Especially when he holds onto the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
especially when he holds on the ball.
And then here's the other question. I thought Jimmy played his best ball with the Niners this last year. I thought he took care of the ball better. I thought he threw the ball way more. I think his touchdown to interception ratio was good. How much do you think the Niners are putting into Darnold's season last year? Because last year, statistically, that final stretch where he went 4-2 in those final 6 games was his best statistical stretch as a pro.
And he didn't have Christian McCaffrey. They traded him. He was throwing at Terrace Marshall and DJ Moore, good players, but he's playing well. He was playing really well, and he was playing. Now you put him on a really good team. I mean, it's fair to feel like if you can just rebuild his confidence and help him with his decision making, you got something here. Let me just give you a stat. I was looking at because I was watching his film today from last year, and I noticed a lot of play action, and I wanted to look at the splits, play action, non-play action. And it wasn't anything eye-opening, but right beneath that on Pro Football Reference is the time in the pocket splits for his career. When he throws the ball in less than 2.5 seconds, his completion percentage is 68.8. When he takes more than 2.5 seconds, it's 49.5. What a split for his career.
That's
for the rating when he gets rid of the ball in 2.5 seconds or less, 90. When he holds onto it longer, 64. So this is a guy who's been trying to do too much. You don't have to do that here, man. It's not about the quarterback on the 49ers. So we'll see what he can do. I felt like last year he was doing a better job of not doing too much last year.
Man, that is a really interesting stat. So if he holds less than 2.5 seconds, he's completing nearly 70%.
Be a point guard. Yes, 70 for his career.
More than 2.5 seconds, he's
below 50%,
which is like
49.5. Yeah, just start right there, Sam. Do less and work from there. Because I feel like when he came out, he wants to be Patrick Mahomes, or people said he was Andrew. I don't know, man, but you're so not that. Just be Brock Purdy. Just be Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
see what happens.
Get rid of the ball. Refugio says maybe the depth is a byproduct of the injuries. It's interesting. John says, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the possibility of picking up Darius Slay? And then what would Grant find wrong with it?
I just said they should do it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
If you could have CJ Gardner-Johnson or Darius Slay, who would you rather have? Two impactful DBs.
It's a really good question. I'll take CJ. He's like 10 years younger, or 8. I'll take CJ Gardner-Johnson. Yeah, you could put him at nickel. You could put him at safety. Yeah, I'll take CJ Gardner-Johnson. Good question.
This one is non-super chat, but it's kind of piqued my curiosity. Marcus Harris. Wilkes should pound the table for Brian Burns.
Dude.
How incredible.
You know how expensive Brian Burns would be? Yeah, if they could figure that out, great. But that guy's going to be super expensive.
Yeah. I don't see that happening.
No.
What do you think right now, as we're sitting here, what's the number one need? Is it right tackle? And if it's right tackle, wouldn't you look for a veteran? Or is it corner? Is it a depth? Is it a defensive lineman? I mean, heck, they've lost a lot of defensive linemen. They lost Ridgeway. They lost Ebukam. They lost Amenahue.
Yeah.
I haven't heard yet on Jordan Willis, but I'm expecting him to be leaving town any minute. They've lost some bodies up front. They were deep, and they needed all that depth in the past. So it kind of makes you wonder where that depth is going to come from. Is D-line? Is it corner? Is it offensive tack? What's the number one need on the middle here in the middle of March?
I'm going to cheat. I think it's 2 and they're tied.
Okay.
They're both in the trenches. I think they look at each other at practice. Offensive tackle and DN. Those 2 spots are a big ones. I mean, I know they just signed Clelin Ferrell today, but they need a pass rusher. They need an edge rusher. He's like an edge setter. He's not an edge rusher. So they still, because Javon Hargrave is not going to transform the Niners pass rush. This is a guy that was getting 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7 sacks in a season before he played in this all-star team in Philly where there was like 5 guys on the line that were monsters. Now it's him and Bosa, and he's going to get more double teams. They need more pass rushers. Armstead, is he a pass rusher at this stage of his career? I don't even know. And then next to him, you got Drake Jackson, who has proven a whole lot less in the NFL than Diamond or Lenore. So I think they need another pass rusher, and they got to draft that early. And then right tackle, like that's even harder to find, as we've talked about. It may not be the biggest need because they could probably get deep in the playoffs with Colton McKivitz, but can they win a Super Bowl with Colton McKivitz? I don't think so. So if they could improve there, that would be great.
You know what? I'll say I don't know which position. I don't think it even matters. Impact defensive back. I like all their DBs, but I don't see a star. I mean, not
Talanoa, because Talanoa is getting like promoted by the NFL as a star.
I know, and if he had a crew cut, he wouldn't be getting.
It's so true, man.
A lot of
it's true.
I mean, a lot of it's the hair and the Palomalu and the big.
It's the Palomalu effect. It's the Palomalu effect.
Profile
for sure.
Games. I like Afanga a lot, but I just don't see superstar there. He especially in the second half of the year, he fell off of more tackles than he made. So that's not good. So I think he's got a lot of potential. I think his feel is awesome. His instincts are great. His deep speed's not great. And if he's going to fall off of blitzes, then
it's true.
I'd rather him not blitz at all than fall off a blitz.
True.
So I need a great player back there.
That being said, though, you could get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, or they could probably draft a really good safety with those comp picks in round 3.
Yeah,
it's nice about that position.
To me, a great player is necessary in the secondary.
You could argue they should spend their first pick on a safety or a
Yeah.
corner, although you're not going to get a great corner at pick 99. You could get a great safety at pick 99. The Niners could have had Kirby Joseph last year, but Kyle Shanahan somehow weaseled his way in the draft room and said, I want Ty Davis Price. Big mistake. Could have had Kirby Joseph. So, yeah, I mean, these safeties are there at this point in the draft. They absolutely – I mean, like, it's a big need. I guess I was just talking about needs that are tougher to fill. They can and should fill the safety need. But right tackle, man, they got to – I'd love to hear their plan at right tackle because I can't figure it out. It's got to be like a mid-season trade, like a Christian McCaffrey type deal. I don't know.
Or maybe they just they love some right tackle in the draft. Maybe that BYU kid Freeland, who they did.
He's a
look
good
at
athlete.
Him at the combine. He's got great workout.
He won't be there at 99 though. They could trade up for him.
You have to trade up. You have to trade up for sure. To me, if you want to get a big time tackle, you better get in the top 50. And I don't know.
Yeah,
if that's possible.
Especially an offensive tackle who could start right away in the draft. Those guys are valuable. Yeah. They're not hanging around in round 3. Oh, he can start right away though.
Is it a rumor or is there any credence to what I'm reading that the Niners are shopping Javon Kinlaw in trades? Is there anything that's been substantiated on that, or is that internet rumors?
I think that's been reported. That's
been reported.
I don't know. I think it's been reported.
Do you think they'll find a home for him? And here's the thing. I would say if you want a pick, I think it's like a late day 3 pick. I mean, I think you're getting like a 6th or a 7th round pick, maybe a 5th. I don't think you're getting anything over the 5th round. I'd rather almost look for one of these teams that has a piece that has the same kind of situation. 5th year, player they don't want to exercise the 5th year option on, and who they drafted in the 1st round hasn't worked out. And I made a little list here: Noah Igbenogany from Miami, Mekhi Becton from the Jets, Clyde Edwards-Helaire from Kansas City, Chase Young from Washington. All those guys are guys that didn't have their 5th year option picked up, and you get the sense that they're available in trade. What do you think? Is Kinlaw? What are they going to do with Kinlaw? Or do you expect to see Kinlaw back in the locker room come this summer?
I think he probably, I can't speak for Javon Kinlaw, but he probably would like to leave at this point. I think he'd probably like an opportunity to play somewhere. But the thing is, I can't see a team trading for him right now. I mean, just a month and a half ago, he was getting like put on skates by the Eagles offensive line. He really almost went viral for some of those clips in that NFC Championship game. So an NFL team is thinking, man, what's changed in a month and a half? If he goes to training camp and he has some good reports and plays pretty well in a couple preseason games, and people feel like, all right, well, now he's healthy and he's more what we envisioned when he came in the league, then you could trade him. But right now, he's looking like damaged goods that might not have trade value. I think it'd be more likely that the Niners cut him. But there's no bring him to training camp. Right? Bring him to training camp. Yeah, bring him to training camp. See what happens.
Do you think? I don't know. Now, wait a second. Let's talk about that for a second. Do you think if they bring him to training camp and he's sitting deep on the depth chart, is that going to be a distraction?
Well, at that point, then you cut him.
Okay, but then you're still.
I mean, backups who are distractions. That's what happened to backups who are distractions. They get cut.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So
it's true.
It's up to him.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Roadhog 228 says, do any of the guys we lost get us comp picks?
Yes,
I heard
they
somebody
do.
suggest today that the Niners, who have 7 comp picks in this draft from last year, could have as many as 5 comp picks in next year's draft for what they've already lost this year.
That's correct. And I'm trying to find. Okay, here we. So Nick Corte, I don't know how he pronounces his name. Korte is on Twitter, and he does a good job with this. So this is this morning, and it doesn't have all the Niners guys, but apparently Jimmy Garoppolo would have netted the Niners a 3rd round comp pick, but since they signed Hargrave, they cancel out. So here's what they got so far. Mike McGlinchey will give the Niners a 3rd round comp pick next year. D'Amico Ryans and Rand Carthon will give the Niners a 3rd round comp pick. That's another 3 3rd round comps next year, plus a 5th for Samson Ebukam and a 6th for Emmanuel Mosley and a 7th for Hassan Ridgeway. And that's not yet calculating Daniel Brunskill or Charles Omenihu. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more comp picks. You talk about the Niners being ahead of the curve. This right here, it's free money, and they get like 4 or 5 of these every year. It's amazing.
They're very disciplined in their approach to it. They know I get the sense that other teams, like are sort of aware of it and then go after who they want with that like not in mind, where the 49ers go after with who they want very much with that in mind.
Also, like, if you wonder why they signed Clelin Ferrell, or however you pronounce his name,
Right.
Ferrell, and not Yannick Ngakoue, are they going to sign Darius Slay? If they do, then they start canceling out some of these comp picks. So don't expect, I think from here on out, the Niners are going to sign 1-year deals, so these comp picks are valuable to them. It's free money.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it makes sense. Robbie Gould made it seem like when the story came out, Grant, you would have sworn that Robbie was like unhappy with the Niners and wanted out. But then you go back and you look up Robbie Gould and you saw the last negotiations with the Niners, and it kind of went the same way. He kind of said, I want to be elsewhere. And they're like, yeah, we kind of rather keep you. And then they've worked it out money-wise. And I talked to him about, late in the year this year, he's got 3 boys. He's living out of a hotel. His family's in the Midwest. I know he misses his kids and that kind of thing. But I mean, he didn't seem bitter that the Niners retained him and that he's still out here on the West Coast. He just, I mean, it's hard. You know what I'm saying? He's such a professional. It's hard to get a gauge on, does he want out or does he just want a few more bucks? And is he going to be here or are they still eager?
A few more bucks is always good. I've never seen him
mid 4.8. I think the franchise tag is 5.4, $5.4 million.
Well, again, my whole working hypothesis is this could be the Niners have to treat this season as Trent Williams last. They don't know. He doesn't know. They have to approach it that way. So you can't downgrade at 10 positions. And I feel like they're already like you lost Jimmy Ward. You lost Emmanuel Mosley. I mean, yes, you upgraded at defensive tackle, but that's about it. You can't just have a massive downgrade at kicker and be like, we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Like, no. Bring back, what is this, $4 million, $5 million? It's not a big deal. If it's either Robbie Gould or someone better, that's what it's got to be.
Who is better? I mean, here's the thing. And what's better? Because Robbie's never missed in the playoffs. If you told me what's my barometer for great kickers, it's like pressure kickers. And this guy's a great pressure kicker. I'd almost give away a couple of kicks in the regular season to make sure I had a guy who did it in the playoffs.
When you put it that way, I'm not so sure that he's leaving. It seems like the Niners need him. There's no upgrade, and he can be swayed. Yeah, if they make an offer, he can't refuse. We'll see what happens. It's business.
Is Eddie Pinheiro an upgrade?
I'm not a big Eddie Pinheiro expert. I haven't watched him. How many kicks has he made in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean he's coming off a good year. He made $400,000. So you might be able to give him. And he was with Carolina. Wilkes knows him. He gave him the game ball late in the year. I don't know.
All right.
I mean. Let me ask you this. Would you rather go with a veteran kicker, either Robbie Gould or somebody else, or would you rather try to take a shot in the draft? What's your feeling on that?
Again, to your point, like this is a kicker who's going to have to make big kicks in presumably the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl with the whole season on the line. Do you want that to be the rookie kicker from Michigan? Is he ready for that? Yes. Or do you want Robbie Gould?
I want Robbie Gould.
So they better work it out with Robbie Gould and pay him what he needs because kicker's important. Kicker's really important.
By the way, I spoke to
you don't want Brett Maher. Sorry.
Yeah, well, who had a great year. I mean, if you look at his
not a big game kicker.
But I mean, my God, at the end of the year, it was like that guy was like,
hey, if they could just get like an extra point specialist, he'll be fine because he's good at the tougher kicks. It's just the extra points.
Do you care if Robbie kicks the ball through the end zone on kickoffs or leaves it short? Because he typically doesn't have the boomer leg that some of these other guys do. Or is that a non-factor to you?
It's not a big deal. I kind of like it sometimes when they leave it short because that means it allows your guys to actually tackle the guy behind the 25, which, I mean, the Niners have invested in George Odom, right? You're paying George Odom. He's the first guy down. Why don't you let him do his thing?
No question. A couple last ones before we let you go. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, according to the reports this morning, he's going to the Jets. Is Aaron Rodgers ever going to play in the Super Bowl again?
Oh, good question. No. There's something, I think we've seen it now. He's 40 years old. He's getting worse. He's the anti-leader. He's so not a leader. Here's what he's going to do. He's already going to create a clique inside his own team. He's bringing in Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. It's going to be a team within a team. There's going to be the Jets, who are a bunch of 23 and 24-year-olds, and Aaron Rodgers and his clique from Green Bay. That's already a problem. And then he's only going to throw it to those guys. And then he's going to show up Robert Saleh and Daniel Hackett left and right. You know how he does. He gets a play call and he looks over, or he throws an incomplete pass and he looks over like, what the hell play was that? And Robert Saleh's going to have to stand there with that stoic look on his face. It's like, I can't stand Aaron Rodgers' act. And he used to be really gifted when he was like 30, but now he's old and he's annoying. He's annoying. Even Brett Favre was never this annoying. Brett Favre, when he showed up to work, would just play. Aaron Rodgers, he's this attitude all the time. Like, nah, I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I don't think he will.
You know, watching the Niners beat him in the playoffs, in the
Every
last
time.
2 years, what really hit me is that he doesn't want to take a hit.
No.
And not that he should want to, but
right.
he prioritizes not getting hit over winning. And I know.
So what kind of competitor are you at this point?
That?
Right. You can see it.
You can see
I mean, Derek Carr is the same way, in my opinion. Derek Carr is the same way. And what you pointed out the other day was at least Jimmy Garoppolo will stand in there and take the hit, which probably leads to a lot of the injuries. But at least you can. My dad says that too. It's one of the more admirable things about Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's courageous.
He's courageous to a fault.
He's not great, but he's courageous and he's somewhat resilient. Great one here from Kev Y Niner. He says, Larry, coming to YouTube is the best thing that ever happened. This is the new age media. Radio is a dinosaur media outlet nowadays. Yeah, I'd like to.
You know what I heard too? It used to be that drive time 3:00 show was like the show.
Right.
Now I heard that the ratings for that are plummeted because people work at home after the pandemic. Isn't that interesting? I think that's very interesting.
Well, maybe it hurts that 1,000 people are watching you and I here on YouTube. And not
that's probably that too. That's probably why would you? Yeah, why would you listen to the radio when you could just turn on YouTube? I mean, everyone has a smartphone now.
Well,
who has a radio?
I think the video component, where it's a very visual world these days.
It's true.
A very visual world. I think,
and we're both so handsome, Larry. We're so good looking.
People need Grant. People
they
need
drink
this.
It in.
Right.
They need this. Yeah,
they need this.
That's right.
Okay, couple last ones. Worst move the Niners have made this go round. What's the worst move? If we're being hypercritical and just said, because I kind of like a lot of what they've done, to be honest. I'm not in the super critical mode right now.
Sure.
I would be if I really hated some of the moves. I don't really dislike. For me, it's Jimmy Ward. I just think Jimmy Ward is a player you can't replicate. You can't replicate guys who play with that ferocity, that violence, and who are versatile like that.
Yeah.
So to me, Jimmy Ward is the worst move for me. But I've heard Jesse, who I'm going to have on later tonight, Jesse Naylor, saying he thinks the Mosley move was the worst move, that Mosley was totally attainable. Do you have what you would consider a worst move thus far?
It's one of those two. They ended up getting way less than I thought. I thought Mosley was going to get $13 or $14 million. I guess I was dreaming. And I thought Jimmy would get 10 or 11. And I mean, you make a good point for Jimmy. They could have given, I'm looking at him right now. He got a 2-year deal. His cap number is less than $5 million this year. They could have had him for Trent Williams' potential final season and worried about the cost next year. He's not expensive. Now, Emmanuel Mosley, I think 1 year, $6 million. That's more expensive, but that's what they paid for Mosley last year. Are they really expecting him to just have a massive fall off because of this ACL? Maybe. I mean, he tore his ACL, right? That's scary. Ward didn't. You could have had Ward for less than $5 million this year. That's a steal. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm with you on that. Jimmy Ward. Because who's your nickel now? Sam Womack?
He took out Pollard in that playoff game. That was probably the biggest play that any Niner made in the playoffs.
Also, they like Womack in coverage. He made some plays in the preseason, but I believe he got benched because he's a liability as a run defender, and a nickelback has to be pretty freaking good as a run defender because you're essentially playing in the run fits. You're a linebacker.
Yeah. You better like contact. That's why K1 was so freaking good.
Yup, and Jimmy too.
Yeah, because these guys are, you gotta stick your nose in there, and you can't think about it. BV50, who's a channel member, says, "Would you guys sign Jadeveon Clowney to deepen our defensive line if we could get him on the cheap?" Where are you on Jadeveon?
We talked about this. He's interesting, but is he really an edge rusher, or is he a guy kind of like Arden Key that you maybe line up in the A gap on third down and run a game with? But he's not just going to line up across from an offensive tackle and beat him with quickness and bend and speed and power. Like that ended up not being who he is, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's it's such a tough call. I mean,
he had 2 sacks last year. 2. And he's 30.
But he's always been overpaid. He's not an edge rusher. He's kind of
30.
Like a delayed blitzer.
Yeah.
And if he was like the final piece to the puzzle, I might consider it. But I just don't think he fits every down as an edge piece. I don't see them using him as this moving piece. I don't. So I would
stop signing 30-year-old defensive linemen. They have enough.
Yeah, seriously.
Get enough.
Guys from the uptick.
Please.
Wesley Brooks says, get Damon Bruce on. All right, there you go. He did start and then he stopped. I'm not sure why. Jonathan
false start.
Chavez.
Damon Bruce, 5 yards.
5 yards. He's gonna have to restart. Jonathan
false
says
start.
He needs to get off of that ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. It's a hallucinogenic. You even heard about this?
No.
It's a hallucinogenic, and I don't really know much about it either. But apparently, it's supposed to be like a spiritual experience, and you like throw up and stuff. I've never done it, and it doesn't sound like fun. But hey,
sounds like my roommates back in college. I came home one day, Grant, and I'm like, "Where is everybody?" Next thing I know, I start hearing things. I'm like, "What the hell am I hearing?" I go outside. My roommates are all taking mushrooms, and they're all on the roof.
On the roof.
It was on the roof, and it was 1:00 in the afternoon in July in Sacramento. So
what kind of roof are we talking here? Flat roof?
We're talking about a pitched roof of shingles. And
that sounds dangerous.
I'm like, seriously, you guys are going to die up there. And then were
they laying down or standing up?
They were laying out with towels.
They were laying out. See, I can see that. Not that I have any experience in that, but I actually, I totally understand where they're coming from. That probably was a lot of fun, actually. Not that I know.
Wait, we gotta. Is this a? First of all, Mark Salas is with YouTube. You get to listen and watch what you want when you want. Yeah, I mean it's worlds better. Hendrick says Oliver signed to the Niners. Is that the San Jose State tight end?
Oliver
or Jacksonville?
Here, let me start real quick.
Wait a second, Isaiah Oliver, the corner. The big corner from Colorado. Let me type in Isaiah Oliver.
Oh yeah, Isaiah Oliver. He was with the Falcons for a long time. Big guy. Went to Colorado. Yes, Isaiah Oliver. Let's get some stats.
Let's see here.
Well, Ambry Thomas, nice knowing you. Okay, so he's 26.
Big corner.
He's been with Atlanta for 5 years. He has 2 career picks. He's big. He started 38 games in his career. Didn't play much in 2021. Last year, gave up a quarterback rating of 76 in 12 games. How many snaps did he get? Last year, he played 349 snaps. So he played a lot in 2019 and 2020. Hasn't played a lot the last couple of years, but depth, probably the end of Ambry Thomas's tenure, unless, I don't know. Couldn't hurt.
Okay, why don't we finish up on this? What do you make of Ambry Thomas? I mean, what a weird career. Goes in the 3rd round. We find out Adam Peters banged the table on draft day for him. So that kind of made me confident that, maybe Peters is pretty sharp and this guy's gonna be a player. Then I really liked the measurables. He looked terrible in training camp that year, but by the end of the year, he was making plays. I think didn't he have an interception in a playoff game or late in the year in a regular season game? And then I figured, Ambry Thomas will hit the ground running this year, and he's going to take off from there, and he's going to be a foundation piece. Nope. Seemed like he had regressed. It was like he was back at the beginning again.
He was so bad in training camp.
Never found his way this year.
I think he gave up like a 90% completion percentage in training camp. Like he wasn't even competing. And I don't know what happened, but it seemed clear that he didn't do anything in the offseason to improve. Meanwhile, Diamador Lador came back in tip-top shape, looking way better. I don't know what Ambry Thomas I kind of felt like the Dante Pettis story. Had a few moments as a rookie, maybe thought that he was about to inherit a starting job, came back worse the second year and just got passed up.
Sports House says, I love the Kruegshow way better than I ever did on KNBR The Game. By the way, I hit that like button. Let's, with lots of T's and S's, go. Let's go.
That's right.
Twisted Clown. Will I get a clap if I become a member to Grant's channel?
I'll give out claps from now on. I think that's a nice little
touch. Hey,
it's nice. It's a nice
welcome
touch.
aboard. Come on in. A little clap. I
love it.
Or you can
only because Larry gave me permission, though. I don't want to steal his style because people out here get mad. You steal a thumbnail, you steal a clap out here. It's like, wait a second.
Don't you?
I invented that.
Your thumbnail's looking an awful lot like my thumbnail.
You will hear from my lawyers.
This is my thumbnail, and yours looks very close to mine.
It's so funny. Like none of these people, like no beat writers or no one was doing YouTube like 3 years ago, but now everyone's a freaking expert with like an established YouTube channel. It's like, great.
And you can't be possibly doing something good on your own. If you're doing something good, you must have stolen it. You stole the idea.
I love it. Yeah.
All right, brother. Good stuff. What do you got going on the rest of the day? What do you
2 hours, 49ers after dark.
Okay.
Jesse Naylor, 6 o'clock, Wednesday
6 o'clock.
Night,
okay, so you know what? Dark. We're passing Jesse around because Jesse's going to be with me. Once you're done with Jesse, don't use up all a good Jesse. Go.
Well, you'll be the host, and then Jesse pretty much drives the show with me at night. I just get him. Yeah, he's good.
Dude, you guys, between you and Jesse with the mic game and the camera game, you guys have upped your game.
Jesse upped the game, and I felt inadequate, and I needed to catch up. If Jesse hadn't done it, I never would have done it. So it's all about Jesse. Now you got to do it.
That's right. Wait a second.
Yeah.
We got this one. I'm Bob Dole. Win? I'm Bob Dole. Am I missing something on the Bob Dole thing?
Isaiah Win?
Is he coming? What is a bigger upgrade? This is more inside baseball, but what's a bigger upgrade for you on YouTube? The mic edition or the camera edition?
The camera. People are kind of dazzled by it. They're like, I think at first people didn't like the microphone because the old one was kind of messed up and I would scream and it would crackle. And I think people like that effect. And now this is more of like a FM sound. And I think some people don't like it, but the camera's hard not to like. They like the crystal clear clarity.
Yeah. I got my camera coming. I actually purchased it. I used it in Arizona, but I won't be actually fully adapting it to the Kruegshow studio here until my main producer, my son gets home from Cal Poly, which is a couple weeks.
I love how this industry can be a little family industry, like me and my dad, you and your son. It's a nice thing to pass on. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, let me ask you this. I know we're up against it here, but because I want to go just an hour today. But how's Pops doing? And how much do you enjoy your guys? Is it Tuesday with Pops?
Tuesday. He's doing great. I love it. I mean, I've been working with him for more than 10 years now, but this whole show is special and it's nice that it's documented and I'll have it the rest of my life. I love doing it. And he's, he took a long time off last year. Last year was awful, but there's been some time and we really have a lot of fun doing it. It's nice.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Tell him I said hi, man. Grant, we'll let you go, man. Have a great rest of your day with Jesse, and we will talk to you hopefully maybe next Monday or so on your channel. We'll hook it up again.
My pleasure. Sounds good. See you soon. Take care, everyone.
There you go. Grant Cohn. Grant Cohn doing a good job. Saigon says, I love you, Grant. Say hi to your dad. And we got this one, Color TV. Lowell's got that juicy 80s, 90s Niners inside scoop. Yeah. So that's the greatest thing about Lowell is you can sit there and go, hey, Lowell, what did Randy Cross say about this? How would you compare what Kyle just said to what Walsh said to you in 1987? And I love that kind of shit. I don't know if you guys do, but I do. Okay. Hey, I'd like to thank our title sponsor, Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. Pig and a Pickle in Emeryville and in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Corte Madera. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Thanks to the New York Style Italian Sausage Company for being a proud sponsor of everything that we do, especially our trip to spring training. And thanks to Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor as well. If you are, a workout warrior, you're working out, you hurt your shoulder over the weekend, you don't want to go to ER, you don't want to go to urgent care, try telmetrics.co, TELMETRIX.co. And it's a great way for you to kind of rehab your injuries, but do it in-house instead of going to a doctor and paying a ton of money. All right, let's hit the chat, see what people have to say. Someone said, what kind of camera is that? I think it was a Sony camera that he's got. And I don't know the exact number, but I think it's a Sony camera. Nick says, great work, guys. Appreciate that. Outside the echo chamber, Grant and Pops is a don't miss show. Don't miss Grant and his dad. A lot of good ones in here. People, Mario Trutanic, Isaiah Oliver to the Niners. Let's hit on that for a second. That's kind of an interesting one. Isaiah Oliver was an interesting player. I saw him at Colorado. He's like 6'1", 200 pounds, 210 in that range. Big corner, went to Brophy, which is the Jesuit school down in Phoenix for high school, and then went to Colorado. In high school, he was a wide receiver and a cornerback, and he was a 3-star recruit. And this guy ran incredibly fast. I mean, his best high school time in the 100 meters is 10.56. That's flying. The Falcons, he went to Colorado, played there 2015, 2016, 2017, and had 82 total tackles at Colorado, 3 picks. And then he left after his junior year. He was a junior in 2017. He foregone his senior year and decided to jump into the draft. So he was in the 2018 NFL draft, and he was also a member of Colorado's track and field team. So you're talking about a great athlete, truly great athlete. And he's been a Falcon the entire time. He was first team All Pac-12 his final year at Colorado, 2017. And the Falcons took him in the second round. He was the 8th cornerback drafted in 2018. And then they signed him to a 4-year deal for $4.6 million in May of 2018. He had his first pick against the Carolina Panthers. And, he had a knee injury in 2021 in week 4, and they put him on injured reserve. And then he signed a 1-year contract in March of 2022 with the Falcons, and then they put him on IR September 1st. And they activated him October the 15th. So his father is Muhammad Oliver, played in the NFL. His uncle, Damon Mays, also played in the NFL. And, he's a big athletic corner, and the Niners could use more NFL caliber corners. I mean, the one thing about corners, the old coach used to say to me, I say, what's the key to pass coverage? He said, you know what the key to pass coverage is? Pass coverage. In other words, the point was, there is no fucking key to pass coverage. When you run out of guys, you run out of guys. So you don't want to be kept. To me, like, one of the number one things I always look for when I'm going through my list of who can win the Super Bowl is, to me, if you show up in training camp and you don't have 5 quality NFL caliber corners, no shot. Because you're going to lose somebody, and you got to have 5 corners in today's NFL game. It used to be, you needed 2 corners and maybe a third. And then all of a sudden teams start going 3 wides and 4 wides and spreading it out. And then you've got all kinds of, you got corners playing in the dime, and it used to be, if you had 5 corners, your 3 guys played, and you had 2 guys that were just special teamers, and they didn't even really need to play that much. Now you have to have 5 corners. Your 4th corner is probably more important than your 3rd linebacker. Your 5th corner might be more important than your 3rd linebacker. I mean, look at the snap counts. Go check your snap counts. As much as I love Azeez Al-Shaair, the reason they let him go is he's a strong side backer on a team that's playing basically a 5-2 front with 2 stacked backers. And they're playing a ton of nickel and a ton of dime. Look at the percentages on the sub packages that teams are playing now in the NFL. It used to be 70-30 base and 30% nickel or dime. Now it's the opposite. Now it's like 75% nickel and dime. and 25, 30% base. So, I mean, it's changed. So now, guess what? Your third corner better be able to play. Your fourth corner better be able to play. Your fifth corner better be able to play. You better show up in camp with like 7 viable corners and maybe put a couple of them on the practice squad. Because if you run out of corners, remember when the Niners ran out of corners a couple of years ago and they signed Brian Allen off the street on a Wednesday and tried to play him Sunday at Levi's against Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Dolphins? And literally, Fitzpatrick came out of the huddle pointing at Brian Allen. He's like, where's out of the huddle? All right, let's go to the line of scrimmage. He's walking the line of scrimmage. He's like, where the fuck's Brian Allen? Oh, he's right there. He's right there. And then he would just drop back to pass and target him and throw right at him. I mean, I'm not even joking. It happened. He was so bad, they literally forced him off the field. It's amazing to watch. All right, let's see. We got people weighing in on the chat on all kinds of things here. BV50, the best radio segment was Pete Franklin against Skip Bayless, 49er Cowboy debates in the 90s. I love Pete Franklin, man. What up yours, Dallas? Flush that bum. And then Pete used to do those commercials for Breath Assure. And he'd be like, man, if you got bad breath, yuck. It's awesome. Pete was awesome. First radio show I ever did on KMBR. I'm filling in for Radnich. It's a 2-hour show. Pete's coming up next. He's in the green room. He comes in during the commercial into the studio. He's like, kid, what's your name? And I'm like, Larry Krueger. He's like, you sound great, kid. You sound freaking great. And I don't think I did sound great, but he just said, you sound great. And he came over. He's like, Pete Franklin. I go, I know who you are. Introducing yourself. But that was like a personal highlight to have like a guy who basically started the genre listening in the green room down the hall in the bullpen area at the old 55 Hawthorne, come down the hall into the studio telling me I'm sounding great. Got a big future, kid. You got a big future. Thanks, Pete. I seriously, I said, Pete, I don't even have to drive home, man. I could float home after that one. Kid Tricksta says, Larry, are you locked on for this Warrior game tonight? Absolutely. Catch me after the Warriors tonight. I'm going to go live at 7:45 with Jesse Naylor, talking more Niners. Can't wait. I'll get Grant's sloppy seconds on Jesse. Just joking about that. But anyway, then and then after the Warriors game tonight, I'll jump in with Cyrus Satsis from Locked On Warriors. Maybe the boys, Danny and Rye, see what they got cooking. Frank Red, maybe Baller, Eric Price, Bay Area Baller, who's a great follow on YouTube as well. Check him out, Bay Area Baller. He's terrific. Yes, I know. F Monty Jano 87. Larry, you need to get some new headphones. I know. Seriously. I'm going with these earbuds and it sucks. I got to go. You're right. You're absolutely right. I will up my headphone game, I promise you, in the days ahead. Third string. The only thing I miss from KMBR is Gary Radnich and Tony Bruno segments. I hear you. That was good stuff, man. That was good stuff. Gary just go on and on and on. That segment went on for like a half hour. Believe it or not, though, at the very end, it was not very highly rated. And I'm not sure why. I think it's maybe people just got tired of the 20 minutes of just kind of them playing off each other and riffing and wanted a little bit more sports. The audience changes and they want different things over time. We got this one. AJ Lamb 88. Would Oliver compete with Lenore on the outside or stay as a slot? I think Oliver can play the outside. I think the nice thing about the Niners situation, Womack can play the slot, Lenore could play the slot, Oliver could play the slot. Really only Charvarius is going to be for sure outside. And I asked Lenore late in the year, do you like the slot versus outside? And he's like, they're different, but he likes both. And he played confidently in both spots. I like Lenore as an outside guy. I like Womack more inside. But we'll see. What I do like, though, is I like the fact that they're getting another NFL caliber corner, and they're probably getting him for a reasonable price. They're not paying top dollar. And and they're gonna, it's all about depth. You don't want to get into a situation with no first or second round pick where you have to have a corner, because then you're going to have to go corner right there in the third round. And what if there's not one on the board that you want? So, Ricardo says, Isaiah Oliver to the Niners. What are we thinking here? What are we thinking there? I think what they're thinking more than anything is, here's a guy with good height, good athleticism, who's reasonably healthy, who has NFL experience. And it's this was a player who's highly thought of coming out in the draft. He hasn't really done it in the NFL, so that's kind of why he was probably available. Is that he hasn't really done it in the NFL. Terradome in the house. Terradome, good to see you, brother. He says, Krug can tell a story, man. Thank you. Don says, Larry, you should have Lowell on your show. I will. I'm gonna ask Grant if I could borrow Lowell. I'll say this. There's so many people that are anti-Grant, and there's so many people that are anti-Lowell, and good people, man. Good people. And all I gotta say is they're good people. And Grant's helped me immeasurably when I was at my lowest. We hung out and talked a little bit about the future and about how he saw it and how I saw it and where I was and where he was and where he wanted to go, where I wanted to go. And we just we talked things through, and just man to man, and just he's helped me quite a bit. So when I hear people go, rip Grant, I'm thinking, you know what? You're falling for it, man. He's a showman. He's a showman. And Lowell is too. He's a showman. And you're confusing the show for the person. There's a lot of people, when somebody's such a good showman that you can't separate the show from the person, that you fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Grant's a good guy, and his dad, and that's because his parents were good people. And, I lost both my parents a couple of years ago, and it was just great having those guys' support. I know Grant has lost his mom. Lowell lost his wife within the last year, and I feel for them. I really feel for Lowell, and hopefully he's doing great. Because it's tough. It's tough when you lose your support system, the people that are closest, that you care the most about. You know what I mean? It does. It impacts your. I don't know. It impacted my whole world and the way I saw the world. And I'm sure it probably impacted them quite a bit as well. So Peter Dyson makes a donation. He says, if Trey balls out and does well to start, wouldn't it be great to trade Brock? He costs next to nothing. What would we get for him instead of trading Trey? Cheers from Dyson in Australia. Personally, I think you'd get a lot for Brock because he's already won playoff games and played undefeated football. Whoever's playing well and winning games. When I say well, if you're out there, you're throwing two touchdowns a game and you're not turning it over, and the offense is cooking and you're winning, they're not going to make a change. So Trey is from where I'm sitting. Trey's got an opportunity this summer. Beats out Sam Darnold, plays the entire preseason, and I think if you said to me, when's Brock coming back, I'd say week 4, right? Because look at the rehab. The rehab pushes right up to week 1, and then let's say there's any setback at all, or any ramp up at all, or any adjustment at all. I think realistically, Trey could be given the first month of the season to show what he's got, and if he's playing really well, they're not taking him out. They're just not. I think he's staying in there if he's playing well. The same way that there was no chance, like people were asking towards the end of the year, will the Niners go to Trey if he's healthy? No. Would the Niners go to Jimmy? No. You're going to ride the hot hand. You don't look at the gift horse in the mouth. It's the NFL. It's hard to win in the NFL. If you're winning, when you start critiquing wins, you're rolling. And that's where we got last year. People start critiquing their wins. The caretaker says, Lowell is awesome. Haruku says, I miss Ralph, especially with this injured, crappy Giants roster. Ralph would be calling out Farhan like he did Ned Coletti. Great radio. It wasn't Ned that he was calling out. It was Sabes. Brian, what do you think of Salt of the Macchia? And then Brian's just disgusted. He's like, What? What? Ralph, why? Why? Just one of the greatest sound bites of all time. What do you think is salt of the market? Oh man, Ralph. I miss Ralph, man. It's funny. One time Ralph and I's kids are the same age. Ralph's son, Tate, was literally 2 weeks, born 2 weeks before my oldest daughter. We were doing a face-off at, 5 to 7. And I told him, I said, I'm taking, this is, a couple years later after she was already obviously born. And now she's like 4 or 5, whatever, a few years. And so I tell him at a face-off, hey, Ralph, we're going to Disneyland. I'm taking next week off. I'm taking her down to Disneyland. We're really excited. He's like, oh, Krueg, I just got back from Disneyland. You're going to love it. And I'm like, that's awesome, man. He's like, in fact, you got to go here. You got to go there. Anyway, so Tom's like, I got to go to the garage and get the hell out of here. So we end the show. Now I'm on. They're walking to the garage, and he calls the studio during a commercial. He's like, it's Ralph. I'm driving home. He goes, what's your extension? I want to give you some information about Disneyland. So I gave him my, whatever it was like 6822 or something like that. I'm like, yeah, it's the internal number. And then I think I'm 6822, Ralph. He said, great. I'll leave you a message. I get home. There's like 9 messages on my work email. 2 of them are from other people, but there's like 7. There's like 7 messages in a row. It's all Ralph. Krueg, hey, it's Ralph. How you doing, man? You gotta take her to Toontown, and there's the Disney princesses, and you gotta go here and you try this. All back and forth. All of a sudden you hear this boop, boop. Then all of a sudden next one. Krueg, hey, it's Ralph. I got cut off again. Yeah. You make sure you take the tram, and then you gotta eat in downtown Disney at Goofy's Kitchen. It's a little pricey, but you're really gonna love it. Boop. A Krueg, you take her on the Matterhorn, and there's a thing right behind the Matterhorn where you can go. 7 voicemails in a row from the Razor, all about Disneyland. Next day, I go into the station, talking to Agnew and Salvador, the guys who ran the station. I'm like, yeah, Ralph, going crazy, man. Left me 7 messages all the way through to completion on the company voicemail about Disneyland. Salvador's like, he's crazy. Yeah, he's like crazy. He's crazy. And he left you a 7-bagger. And he's like, Tony's walking throughout the hall. Ralph left Krueger a 7-bagger. A 7-bagger. It was hilarious. And Ralph, I miss him, man. He was one of a kind, man. He was absolutely one of a kind. And I loved it. I mean, when he forced Sabian to get rid of Benitez, and then Sabian came on, he's like, all right, Ralph, you're going to need a new guy to, kick around because Armando's no longer here. And Sabes was pissed. He was pissed that Ralph had created an atmosphere among Giants fans where Benitez had to go. And he did not like it at all. Jordy says Ralph was a boss. Yeah, he was. He was awesome. He was absolutely awesome. We got this one from Kyle Curry. I truly miss the old KMBR 680 lineup from the 90s and into the early 2000s. BV50. I got a Tommy T basketball card. Should I send it to him? Care of KMBR? You should. Yeah, he'll sign it. And send it back. We got this one from Don Dada. He says Baker Mayfield to Tampa. It's funny. Grant said he'd rather have Darnold. I think I'd rather have Baker I think Baker's a better player than Darnold, but I thought it was interesting that Darnold got more money than Baker. Bomber T says, LOL, Krug's impersonations are priceless. Thank you. Ralph was the GOAT. We get this one from Mike Vaz. Great stories, Larry. R.I.P. Ralph B. Yeah, Ralph. Nothing but great things to say about Ralph. Though he did, back in the day, would be like, Krueg, I want to get down on a game. I know you got connections. Can I borrow your guy? And I'm like, you want to borrow my bookie, Ralph? He's like, yeah. I have a guy, but he's kind of mad. And I'm like, why is he mad, Ralph? What do you mean you got a guy? Why is he mad? I go, Ralph, I'm going to tell you one thing. I go, my guy pay. I go, you can use my guy. I'll give you his number, but my guy pays, Ralph. And he goes, oh, great. I'm like, and Ralph, you know what that also means? He's like, what? He's like, I go, my guy collects. My guy pays, but my guy collects. And when I said my guy collects, he gave me this look like, uh-oh, like I'm in trouble. I'm like, just pay your bets. You know, if you wager and you lose, you pay. And if you wager and you win, they pay. It's called gambling, brother. Oh man. RM says, great stories. I'd listen to KMBR from New Jersey on the computer at work. Luis on YouTube's here, like, who's Ralph? Ralph is a former local radio host here in San Francisco. Who's no longer with us, but he was a great guy. He was absolutely a great guy. And he just had some amazing segments where he would just go after Sabian, go after Bob Quinn. He went after Spreewell's lawyer, Robert Gist, when Spreewell had all kinds of issues. Ralph was incredible. And it's funny, we're having a meeting late. We had new PD, and he's having a meeting and with us, and he's like, we got to do these things a little more condensed, enough of these, 18-minute interviews. Let's get these things down to like 7 or 8 minutes, man. Let's get this thing down. And Ralph goes, sometimes I need to ask a question like 3 or 4 times before I can get the answer that I want. And the guy looks right at him. He's like, good. Call him from home. All right. Anybody else? He's like, just shut up, Ralph. Just so quick. He's like, call him from home. Don't waste my airtime with 13-minute interviews. Oh man. Good memories. This one from Haruku. I'm laughing so loud at work. God damn, Krug, you're killing me. Oh no. What can I say? I can, if you ever see me, I can't do it right now just because I just can't do it right now. But if you ever see me, you got to get out on the street, have me do the impersonation where Ralph and Ted Robinson got into an argument over the word perspicacity. Epic. It's like, I mean, seriously, I told the producer, don't even, play commercials. They're in the studio and we're during a face off and Ted Robinson's sitting in for Tommy T, and they start talking about perspicacious and perspicacity and this and that. It was unfreaking believable listening to Ted and Ralph debate perspicacity, and Ralph and Ted and the passive aggressive, and Ralph is the neurotic, and it's just awesome. It was just an awesome moment in studio off-air time. Raj says, Larry, let's say 49ers trade to the Titans and get their first-round pick. Who should the Niners get? Michael freaking Mayer, the tight end for Notre Dame. To me, he's a Pro Bowl tight end. You have Brock Purdy right now who loves to use the tight end. You have Kittle. You don't really have a second tight end. Man, if they had Michael Mayer, you had a Pro Bowl tight end to what the Niners have. I think they'd go to 3 of the next 5 Super Bowls. They might go to 3 of the next 5 Super Bowls anyway. BV50. Larry, do Trent Baalke talking to the Razor. God. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can do that. It's not easy. Different tones, different voice inflections. Ralph, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to see you, Trent. You're such a good personnel guy. You always know who to draft and who to cut, and who to get on the team. It's just such a pleasure having you here in the studio. Oh, Ralph, now you're embarrassing me. Oh, come on, Trent. Tell me who you're gonna draft. Come on, Trent. First round. Just tell me who your first round pick is. You're not talking to anybody. It's just me and you. Oh, Jed would fire me in a second, Ralph, if I gave you the answer. I wrote AJ Jenkins' name down in an envelope, and I put it in my desk, and I didn't look at it until the night before. That's so cute. Didn't they did that in the movie Draft Day, right? They did it in Draft Day. I think I saw it. There you go. That's all I can do. I can't. I'm getting too scratchy. I got to go too high, too low. But there you go. There's a little Trent Baalke and Ralph. Zach Chase. Oliver's a good player. Top 10 rated cornerback last year. Top 6 in run D. He's versatile too. Plays primarily slot, but also can play outside and safety. I think that's actually the attraction of Isaiah Oliver, is that he is versatile enough to play both spots. Third string All-Pro, says Ted Robinson, Joe Starkey were first-class radio play-by-play announcers. Nate says Krug wants a tight end. I say go best cornerback. I'd be fine with the Illinois cornerback as well. That kid Mitchell, I think his name is. He'd be nice. But yeah, now that they're kind of starting to fill some of these other needs. Terradome says Paris Johnson. We got this one for 209. He says, I like Larry. You are real. Thank you. Appreciate that. Third string says, what about Brock Bowers next year? Local kid from Napa is an absolute beast at Georgia. I think Michael Mayer is better than Bowers. So I like Bowers too. Bowers. I mean, every time I watch Brock Bowers at Georgia, I think, why the hell is he not going to Cal? Why is he not at Stanford? Why is he not in California at SC or UCLA? It's like you're from Napa and you want to go live in Athens, Georgia. My God. Jason says, good God, Larry, you're killing me. I'm 49er minded. Larry, this sounds like something out of a cartoon. Thank you. Boz C100. Larry, do you think we are making moves to keep us going after the fucking Lombardi? No doubt. 49ers are loaded. That's why I suggested to Grant that they might be, like Joey Lightyear said of the Warriors, way ahead of everybody else. Lynch and Parag might be way ahead of everybody else, because look at the way the Niners are handling free agency. Last year, they got a number one corner. Today, they got this week, they got a number one D tackle. They're letting all of these kind of good but not great players go. They're accumulating an incredible number of compensatory selections, which is giving them unbelievable deep raw draft classes year after year. They're loaded. They're one of the deepest teams in football. I wasn't sure how John Lynch was going to do as the general manager, because he'd come out of the booth. He'd never been a general manager. But you know what? I didn't give John enough credit, because John went to Stanford. John's really smart. John is smart enough to know how to figure out how to put together a personnel department and get it churning. And he's done exactly that. I mean, you could have said without a doubt. I mean, and I talked to a buddy of mine who's a college scout for the Carolina Panthers, and we were talking in July, and I said, he's like, hey, let's do. He goes, I got a meeting later in this week where we're going to go over all the different. They want their entire scouting department to kind of go over and evaluate the league on a pro personnel side, kind of a exercise. And he's like, hey, you're my buddy and you're unbiased. You're not listening. I need an unbiased opinion. Go through and look at everybody's roster and let me know who you think the deepest rosters are in the NFC. And so I went through and I looked at everybody's roster and I'm like, oh, this is really easy. It's the Niners and it's the Eagles. And he's like, yep, that's what we all had too. Niners and Eagles. So that's John Lynch, and that's this game. The 49ers didn't have a first-round pick last year, and they still had a draft class of like 14 different guys that were either on the active roster or on the practice squad. And there's all kinds of guys that they have that the fans don't even know anything about who are ballers. Kalia Davis is a baller, man. Wait till you see him next summer. He was just hurt this year. Tay Martin, baller, big-time possession receiver. He didn't play this year. Marcelino McCrary Ball didn't play. Played in the preseason. That's it. Baller. I mean, he's going to be an NFL player, and a damn good one. These guys are all going to get paid at some point. So the Niners are doing a really good job in the draft. They understand. They understand how to do it, and their equation's working. Is it I3 the _ I3? Primetime Larry in full effect. There you go. 49er minded. I prank called Trent Baalke once. I have the video on my channel. John Lund and I got into an elevator, and Trent gets in at the very last second. And it's the three of us, and it's after a Niner loss. And like when you see somebody and the first thing you say to them is, "Hey man, how's it going?" Well, I was in that mode, right? So I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Trent? How's it going?" And the Niners were just gotten trounced. And it might have been like the Chip Kelly era, or they hadn't stopped the run, and he's looking at his shoes. He's got his hands in his pocket. He's all distraught. And I said to him in the elevator, "So Trent, how you doing?" And he just looks up at me and he looks down. And I go, you don't have to answer that. And Lund starts laughing. Told that story on the radio like 20 times. Yeah, Trent. And then Trent, I'm doing an interview with Trent. They had terrible linebackers. And I go, "Trent, you have no linebackers. We're in training camp." I go, "How are you going to get through this season with no linebackers?" He's like, "Larry, there's a lot of people in our office. We like our linebackers, okay? We like Navarro." I'm like, "I like Navarro too, but he had major surgery. He's not nearly the same player. He's kind of diminished, and you got nobody else." "We like Gerald Hodges, Larry. We like Gerald Hodges." I'm like, all right. I'm like, "Well, good luck to you, man. Good luck." And I just walked away. That was the year that Jacquez Rogers went for 100. Bilal Powell went for 100. Reuben Drones went for 100. Literally, it was like 7 guys in a row went for over 100 yards as a running back. Think about the Niners in the last few years. I don't think they allowed a 100-yard rusher to anybody. Nobody went for 100. No, I don't think this last year was there a single rusher that went for 70 against the Niners? I don't think so. That year, they had like 7 weeks in a row where a back busted them for 100 yards. They couldn't stop the run. They had no linebackers at all. But not to Trent. Good old Trent loved his backers. "We like Gerald Hodges." Great. Razor Quack. He said, "Do the Niners get over the hump this year?" I think so. I think they're going to the bowl. You can't predict them to win it, but I think they're going. We got this one from Tom Bragg. He says, "We just need to get our kicker and right tackle. Please sign Eddie Pinheiro and Isaiah Wynn." Isaiah Wynn's a little long in the tooth, isn't he? Eddie Pinheiro, I think, makes sense. I really think he makes a lot of sense. I'd rather have Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould's a leader. I don't know how many kickers are leaders, but he's a leader. We got this one from Nate. He says, "McCrary Ball just flies." Yeah, he does, man. He does. He's the real deal. And I asked him, I said, "Marcelino, why'd you come here? Why'd you sign here? This team's got Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner and Aziz and Flanagan Foles and all these guys. They're stacked." And he's like, "Man, these guys are dogs, and I want to be a dog too, and I'm good enough. And I want to play on a team that has great backers, and I want to learn from them, and I want to become great." He said like literally every freaking thing that you would want to hear. I was like, dude, you're real, man. That is real. But I also kind of love what the Niners have done with their linebackers where, it used to be, remember Matt Millen with the big old neck roll and he ran 4.9 or whatever. Now, if you run 4.7, you can't play in the NFL. You got to be a 4.5 guy. And so all these Niner linebackers, they're all converted DBs. They all run like the wind. You can be 220 now, but as long as you run 4.5 and you play fast, you get great instincts. That's really it. WB, love Larry. He actually reads comments from people that don't send money. Unlike Cohn, who uses the money to buy imported Cambodian breast milk. Keep up the good work, bro. I do love reading the chats, and I also like the video calls. We'll get into that. Sometimes you get some nuts, but it's fun. I like the video calls, and we'll take some of those later tonight. Peter Lee says the Niners signed Isaiah Oliver. Yeah, Peter, we're fired up about it. Depth, good corners. You got to have corners. You got to have real corners. You can't have these guys who are just like, he's pretty athletic. No, you need real guys. And at least Isaiah, I don't know if Isaiah Oliver's a star, but he's an NFL corner. He'll make the team, I think. RM says Cam Biar's going downhill, especially since they let you go. 49er pregame show and especially postgame show is nowhere near what it was. You know what? A lot of those guys are still my friends, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to say anything bad. Johnny Lund's a good friend. Cope's good friend. Dennis Brown. They're doing what they can do, man. They're doing what they can do. What's G-Rad doing? Jesus. Taking care of his family, man. I admire the hell out of G-Rad because he said, when I'm done, Krug, I'm done. I said, what do you mean? You're not going to hang out? He's like, I'm not going to be hanging in the corner of the locker room, with a hot dog dangling out of my back pocket. He used to make me laugh so hard. He goes, when I'm out of here, I'm out of here. To the point where it's like, I want Gary on the show so bad, but it's like, I don't want to ask him because I'm just like, I know that he doesn't want to be bothered. But man, how great would it be to have him on here? Nick Money Meyer, he says, we all do, Krug. Not sure. We got this one from 49er Minded. Aziz's departure opened the door for McCrary Ball. In fact, if you go on YouTube to my videos and look at the interview I did late in the year with Aziz, we talked about McCrary Ball. And he's like, yeah, man, that guy's coming. He's coming. He's going to be good. Game respects game. Game recognizes game. And Aziz recognized that MMB, Marcelino McCrary Ball, has game. He has big time game. Kyle Curry has become a YouTube member. Thank you, Kyle. Welcome aboard. Always get a little clap for the newest members of the show. Caesar says radio is dying. What can you say? How many people have a radio in their house? That's the deal. Bomber T, Larry is the man. Bomber, you're the man. You're the man. Giants fan, Giants Niner fan. Still waiting for Tim Ryan, bro. Oh, I know, man. I gotta. After this show's over, I'm calling Tim Ryan. Clarsard, Larry's a professional staller. Wait, we got a Trey Lance fan. KP says Trey Lance is going to win the bowl for the Niners this year. Book it. 100. Let's see. Eddie, I love the dynamic. 3 of Gary, Larry, and Kate Scott. Kate's doing her thing, man, with the Sixers. Good for her, man. That's a tough market to break into. Philadelphia. Larry with the Bay Area hip hop reference game recognizes game. 3rd string all pro. Lance may not even hit the field. I think Lance is going to be good. I just think it's going to take a while. And I don't think it's going to be this year. But if you said, is he put everything you own on he's a bust or he makes it? I'm putting it in, I don't know. He makes it. Absolutely. Kyle Curry says, thank you, Krug. Big fan. Love this show. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Let's not rip Bomber T. GPK. If Bomber T goes any further up Larry's ass, he'll be Pinocchio. God. Wasn't that the more he lied, the more his nose grew? I think that's how it went. Larry, who's your final 4? I don't have it in front of me, but I've got Purdue, Gonzaga, Houston. Who do I have in the other region? Purdue, Gonzaga, Houston. Anyway, I've got Houston winning it all. In Houston. Houston to win the Final 4 in Houston. That's how I see it. I'm going pretty chalky, though. Pretty chalky. Jose Pepe says, always a good show, Larry, from Orlando. Appreciate that. 3rd string all pro. Wait, so Pinocchio's nose is growing in Larry's ass? Oh, man. We got this one from RM. Fantastic content, Larry. You and David Lombardi should do a YouTube show together. I just had him on. He was just on a couple weeks ago. Dave used to join me on my Stanford pregame show when he was a kid at Stanford. He's like, hey man, I do this show and I do this article for the Bootleg, and I know tons about Stanford. Would you like me to do a segment with you on your KMBR 1050 Stanford pregame show? I'm like, yeah. So I had him on. First day, I'm like, oh, this kid's good. I'm like, dude, you can come on anytime you want. And then after a while, I'm like, yeah, you can come on for a couple segments. He was great. Absolutely great. So when I see Dave doing well, makes me happy because he's worked at it, man. He's worked at it. He's developed a nice little thing. He's got tons of YouTube followers and all kinds of stuff going on for Dave. Dave is doing it well. All right. Couple of last minutes. I want to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank all of our good friends at Pig and a Pickle. Pig and a Pickle is a phenomenal barbecue place. Check them out in Corte Madera. They're also in Emeryville, in the Emeryville Public Marketplace. They're open 7 days a week in Marin, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Check them out. A quick word from Pig and a Pickle. Also, thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics. If you hurt yourself, you hurt your elbow, your shoulder, you don't want to go get it looked at a doctor, and you want to try to rehab it at home, use this website, telmetrics.co. It's a great place for you to learn how to rehabilitate your own injuries. That's TELMETRIX.co, not .com, .co, Telmetrics. And thanks to them for being a sponsor of the Kruegshow. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank New York Style Italian Sausage. Great product, man. I don't know if this is one of those products that if you've tried it, you're a fan. I love the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo, the breakfast sausage. It's all phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And thanks to New York Style Italian Sausage for sponsoring our show and sending us to Scottsdale, Arizona for spring training. And great sponsor, a great product, and a quick word from New York Style Italian Sausage.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York Style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York Style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
All right, when you see that Pasquale wink, you know we're in our home stretch. But hey, thanks to everybody. Thanks to Grant Cohn for stopping by. Check out, of course, Grant's channel. Wait a second. Terradome says, Krug, I think I found our free agent right tackle, Jermaine Illuminor from the Vegas Raiders. Check him out. I have seen him. Are you saying that they just signed him, or are you saying that you like him? I think he's just saying he likes him. I'm Bob Dole says, Larry, when can we have a beer together? Hey, man, pick your time and place. I'm there. I don't turn down beer. I just don't. If anybody knows me knows that. The Kruegshow, good job on all the likes. Thanks, folks. If you have not hit the like button, let's break 300 likes. Oh, yeah, this is the part in the show where I always look to see exactly where we're at as far as total followers, total subscribers, I should say, on the show. And I believe we just got past 15,000 the other day. So if you're in the chat right now, we're at 15,261 subscribers. So if you've yet to hit like. That helps more people find the shows. And then if you hit subscribe and hit that notification bell every time we go live, you'll get a little notification that, hey, the Krueg Show's going live, and you'll know you can catch it. And then, of course, if you want to be a channel member, people pay like $4.99 a month to be a channel member, and they get exclusive content ahead of some of the other people. And all the content we put out. My son is working hard, putting out lots and lots of videos from the show and clips from the show. So definitely check that out on YouTube. And if you want to leave a comment, please do. I go through those every night and read them. And that's really the cool thing too. It's like, when you're on the radio, you get a lot of tweets, you get a lot of texts, you get a lot of communication from the audience. We get a lot of it here on the live streams. But then also on those videos, there's great spots there for people to leave comments, and we get a lot of really cool comments. So I'm always really impressed by how intelligent and knowledgeable the fans are in the comments on YouTube. It's far greater than what you typically see at any radio station on like a message board. So tells me that there's a lot of really smart people who are dialed into YouTube, which is great. Absolutely great. One more super chat, Jaguayo56. Jaguayo, good to see you. He says, what do you think of Isaiah Oliver signing? I mean, I've been talking about it. He's real. I mean, he's got good size. He hasn't had a ton of success. He's been just okay, but he's a real NFL corner, and they definitely need depth there. Losing Emmanuel Mosley really hurt. And they're going to look in the draft for corners, but you don't want to be. You got to give yourself some flexibility to go with the best players in the draft and not have to force it. But yeah, I like Isaiah Oliver. It's a good sized corner who's versatile, can play inside in the slot. He can play outside. He could probably play free safety in a pinch. And in this cover three, Steve Wilkes likes to blitz a lot. He likes to play a lot of cover three. Who's going to man that deep middle? Well, it's going to be Tayshaun Gibson. And Tayshaun Gibson is really good as far as he's a very productive interceptor. But if you got to play any man coverage, I think he's lacking. So maybe a guy like Isaiah Oliver can maybe even play a little free safety if they, want to go with a little different look and play a little bit more man. Maybe Oliver could even help him there in the deep third of the field. So anyway, good stuff tonight at 7:40. So roughly almost a little bit less than 3 hours from this minute, Jesse Naylor is going to stop by for a little more 49er talk. We'll talk more about Isaiah Oliver, Sam Darnold, Javon Hargrave, what Jesse thinks is the next move coming down the pike. And then we'll be on tonight after the Warriors road game. Check that out as well. So until then, we'd like to thank everybody, thank all of our sponsors, and thank all of you. And until next time, we're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle.